Hi, and welcome to Developmental Psychology. This is a 7-week asynchronous class. My name is April Valois. I'm going to be the professor of this class. I introduced myself more in the welcome video. Let's jump into it. The text that we'll be using is Life, the Essentials of Human Development, 2024 release. Today, we're going to be talking about Chapter 1, the study of human development. The learning objectives for this chapter are describing human development and how its study has evolved, describe the domains and periods of human development, be able to give examples of the influences that make one person different from another, and be able to discuss the principles of the lifespan perspective. So those are our goals for today's lecture on Chapter 1. Human development is an ever-evolving field. It's the scientific study of the systematic processes of change and stability in people. Researchers assume lifespan development is from conception to death. So often you'll hear the term the womb to the tomb in terms of to represent that length of time. The first goal in studying lifespan is to be able to describe what's happening. So, for example, when do children say their first words? The second goal is to be able to explain what is happening. How do children learn to use language? Our third goal in studying the lifespan is to be able to predict what's going to happen. What is the likelihood that a child will have speech problems? And the fourth goal is to be able to predict when to intervene. Example, how effective is speech therapy? There are 3 domains of development, which include physical, cognitive, and psychosocial. Physical development involves changes in the body and brain, including the senses, motor skills, and health. Cognitive development is change in learning, attention, memory, language, thinking, reasoning, and creativity. Psychosocial development is change in emotions, personality, and social relationships. Periods like childhood and adulthood are social constructions based on subjective perceptions or assumptions. These periods vary among cultures and across generations. A sequence of 8 periods is generally accepted in Western industrial societies. The 8 periods of human development start with the prenatal period, which goes from conception to birth. The next is infancy and toddlerhood, going from birth to 3 years, early childhood spanning 3 to 6 years, middle childhood 6 to 11 years, adolescence 11 to 20 years, young adulthood 20 to 40 years, middle adulthood 40 to 65 years, late adulthood, 65 years and over. Different things have influences on development. The individual differences in people are explained by 3 major influences. The first is heredity, so the inborn traits and characteristics that are inherited from our biological parents. The second is our environment, which consists of the world outside of ourselves and learning through that experience. And the third is maturation, which is the unfolding of a natural sequence of physical changes and behavioral patterns, such as walking and talking. Within the context of development, we talk about different variables, such as the family. The nuclear family is a household consisting of one or two parents and their children, including biological, adopted, and stepchildren. Changes to the nuclear family are reflected in increasing numbers of single and childless adults, unmarried parents, and gay and lesbian households. An extended family is a multi-generational network of grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and more distant relatives. Socioeconomic status is another variable to consider within the context of development. A family is characterized by its socioeconomic status, which is a combination of factors that include parental income, education level, and occupation. Socioeconomic status, or SES for short, is related to developmental processes such as parents' verbal interactions with children and outcomes, for example, health and cognitive performance. SES indirectly affects these factors through the kinds of homes and neighborhoods people live in, nutrition, access to medical care, and schooling options. Within the context of development, an important thing to consider is definitely poverty, and socioeconomic status reflects that. Global poverty rates have been in a slow but steady decline until COVID-19. In 2022, 17% of all children under age 18 lived in poverty. Children from middle and lower income families also suffer negative effects of employment insecurity and income inequality. Risk factors are conditions that increase the likelihood of a negative outcome and include emotional and behavioral problems and potential declines in cognitive potential and school performance. The risks of poverty may be indirect through its impact on parents' emotional state and parenting practices. Culture refers to a society or group's total way of life, including customs and traditions, laws, knowledge, beliefs and values, language, and physical products. Culture is constantly changing. In an individualistic culture, more priority is placed on personal goals and more encouragement on people to view themselves as distinct individuals. A collectivist culture is more concerned with collective goals and group dynamics. An ethnic group consists of people united by a distinctive culture, ancestry, religion, language, or national origin. Ethnic minorities are those ethnic groups with national or cultural traditions different from the majority population. These groups are often affected by prejudice and discrimination. By 2044, ethnic minorities in the United States are expected to become the majority. Race is a socially constructed term. Scholars have no real consensus on a definition. Categories are shaped by society and politics. 90% of genetic variation occurs within rather than between races. About 1 in 4 children live in an immigrant family in 2021. Out of those families, 88% were born in the United States, making them U.S. citizens. Immigrants are more likely to work at low-paying jobs, and 15% of immigrant families live in poverty. Immigration rates dropped sharply during COVID-19. Now we're going to move into talking about normative and non-normative influences. Normative influences are biological and environmental events that affect many or most people in a society in similar ways. Age-graded influences are highly similar for people in a particular age group, such as puberty. History-graded influences are significant historical events, such as the Great Depression or World War II. A historical generation is a group of people who experience the event at a formative time in their lives. By contrast, an age cohort is a group of people born at the same time. A historical generation may contain more than one cohort. Non-normative influences are unusual events that have a major impact on individual lives by disturbing the expected sequence of the life cycle. Typical events happening at an atypical time, such as the death of a parent when the child is young. Atypical events, such as surviving a plane crash. There are periods of development that are considered critical or sensitive. An example of this is when Konrad Lorenz showed that newly hatched ducklings will instinctively follow the first moving object they see. They use imprinting, an example of a predisposition toward learning. In this case, they imprint that the first moving object they see is their mother. A critical period is a specific time when a given event or its absence has a specific impact on development. If a necessary event does not occur during a critical period, normal development will not occur, and the resulting abnormal patterns may be irreversible. Two examples of critical periods are a woman using certain drugs or contracting a certain disease at specific times during pregnancy, resulting in the fetus showing ill effects. If a certain muscular problem in the eyes is not corrected early, depth perception probably will not develop. Nevertheless, critical periods are controversial. Many aspects of development, including physical domains like brain functioning, have been found to show plasticity, which refers to modifiability of performance. Given plasticity, it is more useful to think of sensitive periods in which a person is particularly open to certain kinds of experiences versus seeing them as periods that have an end where something cannot develop past that period. The lifespan developmental approach was something identified by Baltes and includes 7 key principles of lifespan development. The approach sums up many of the concepts discussed in this chapter. The first is that development is lifelong, and no period is more or less important than any other. Development is multidimensional, including biological, psychological, and social dimensions that develop at varying rates. Development is multidirectional, showing gains and losses at any point. The relative influences of biology and culture shift over the lifespan. The balance between these influences changes over time. Biological abilities weaken with age, but cultural supports may help compensate. Development involves changing resource allocations. In childhood and young adulthood, resources go toward growth. In old age, resources go toward the regulation of loss. Development shows plasticity. Many abilities can be improved even late in life. Development is influenced by the historical and cultural context. Each person develops within multiple contexts defined by maturation, time, and place. Thanks, guys. That finishes up the lecture and slides for Chapter 1.